Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns newsstands. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Hello, Jeff Sharples. My name is Ian Bagg. This is Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yeah, really good.
Just to let people know, Jeff stayed at my house Sunday.
Sunday.
I can't remember. One day he stayed at my house one day, but we decided that he should go to a hotel so we could record this.
I was actually I was with you guys Saturday and Sunday, and I'm getting ready to head back to Vegas today. So that's why I'm not with Ian, but anyways, we had a lot of
breakdown because I thought we were going to record yesterday. I was like, I don't know how to do this with two people at the same place. I was like, my head was just racked with stress. So
yeah, it'd be like an eclipse. We wouldn't be able to see anything over your shoulder over there. It'd be all those guys would be blocked out by our heads. So it's good.
Awesome.
So no, I think we should try and do one. Yeah.
Hockey's, but we got a great guest today. I was up in Calgary. I did the Blue Ball event, which is raise money for men's health. We raised some money for them, and it was at Cowboys Bar and Saloon in Calgary. If you know the Stampede, you know where everybody goes. Big event, but I met a young man on the morning show out of 960 AM 960 Sportsnet, not to be confused with AM 690, which I probably will confuse. But Matt Rose is coming on the show today. He is the morning show there, and he will give us a scoop on all things Calgary. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Sports radio in Canada the sports radio in the States too, but it is unreal in Canada because 99.9% of it's on hockey. And I'm looking forward to talking to Matt today.
I love it. The games we watched, the Canucks on Sunday night. They went into overtime with San Jose and pulled it off. Canucks are now on a 3-game heater, 1 point out of a playoff spot. And Bruce Boudreau is made sure that his job is good until Christmas time, I would say.
Yeah, they talk about if you're in the playoffs at U.S. Thanksgiving, that's a good sign. 75% of the time you make it. But I'm not so sure. I think we got to back that up to at least Christmas, maybe sometime in the new year now. I don't even know if it really applies that much anymore. I mean, you don't see Anaheim making it or San Jose or, you're not going to – you're not seeing teams like that. Maybe Columbus is another one you don't see making it. But I think that with all these multi-goal comebacks and the way energy shifts now in the NHL, it's almost like college. Like if you watch college sports, the momentum changes are like so dynamic. They're huge. You're starting to see that now with the NHL. And the Canucks are going. The New Jersey Devils, I'm telling you what, it's just insane what they're doing. And another team that I really like and is for real is Seattle, the Kraken. And so there's a lot to be excited about. Edmonton keeps on doing their Houdini stuff where they pull wins out at the last minute and they're the heartbreak kids. But it's good to see Vancouver get back going. It's good to see New Jersey do well. Our boy Hoods is with the Islanders. They're doing well. And of course, then you got teams like Tampa and that just keep on trudging on doing their thing. So lots of good stuff.
Right? Yeah, there's really quite the top echelon, and then there's the middle, and then there's the bottom.
Well, we don't want to forget about our boy Flats in Winnipeg, who Winnipeg's quietly having a very nice season. So
very nice season. Let's talk really quick about that helmet falling off a Hellebuck and them not blowing the whistle. Let's talk about that really quick. I always thought when a goalie's helmet came off, the whistle blew dead no matter what was happening.
Yeah.
They say that's not the case. I think it should be the case. I think you see a guy get a skate to the face or a stick to the face, or there's a reason they put those masks on those guys because they want to protect them. And if you don't protect them 100% of the time, I think it's no point in having a mask on them.
Yeah, it's a position where guys are shooting the puck at you 90, 100 miles an hour constantly. You got all kinds of traffic, you get bumped, and now all of a sudden your gear comes off. Here's the thing. if your helmet comes off in the ice, you got to pick it up and put it on right away, or you got to get off the ice.
Right.
Well, that's a lot to ask of a goalie with all the stuff he's carrying around down there. So just from, I mean, we talk about player safety. Oh, we're going to have a look at this hit because player safety wants to look at it. I'm like, the goalie's mask falls off. I get it. There's a lot going on, and goalies aren't stupid. You see them nod their head all the time when it comes loose to get it off. But it's not such an event in the game that you don't see it so often that it's swinging momentum, I don't think,
Right.
or causing goals to be called back. In this case, a goal to be scored. But yeah, I don't know. I think you got to protect. They're smart. They know what they're doing in there. But
you could make it a delay a game penalty to make sure that they keep it on their heads.
Yeah, but how do you enforce that? In
Just make them all like that. If it comes off, if a goalie's mask comes off to protect him, it's a delay of game.
Well, I'm assuming, in 99% of the time, there's a shot that hits the guy in the head, or maybe once in a while a stick, and the strap comes loose, and all of a sudden now we're talking about a safety issue, right?
Mhm.
I mean, and everybody shoots high. It's not like they're sliding it on the ice in the league anymore all the time. They're testing the strength of the glass behind the net. Hellebuck's 6'4", stands well above the crossbar. So, but you know what, guys, he's throwing together a Vesna type season again. And Big Save Dave Flats has got Big Save Dave Rittich playing really well in Winnipeg. Bonus is doing a great job. We got Brad Lauer and Scotty Arneal, a couple old teammates of mine, so I'm really happy. And Kevin Cheveldayoff I used to play with, and then he became a coach. So I'm really, I know all those guys in Winnipeg. They're great guys, and I would love to see them have a heck of a run. And I said they already came through Vegas, but I'd love to see them back in Vegas in the playoffs later in the year, because that was one of the best rivalries when the Knights came in, them and the Jets right away. Just incredible hockey, and really stirred up both cities, which was fun. So
I like it.
Yep, that's it.
One other thing, you brought up Seattle earlier. I want to say Shane Wright is scoring in the AHL. I think he had another goal the other night. I don't know how many games he's got left. I know he can only play 5 down there. But it's interesting watching his
inbound incoming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm dropping right away today. Hopefully I can keep it together later in the show.
Absolutely.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh,
but it's interesting watching his route and to the NHL. And I think his path, as they say, I think it should be kind of a learning lesson for the NHL, dealing with these young minds and letting them know not every path to the NHL is going to be the same, and it's okay.
Well, you know what? You and I talked about this, I think, yesterday, the day before, but I'd like to see a scenario, and I'm sure there's some kind of labor law or something involved that I'm not aware of or didn't think of, but I'd like to see the NHL teams be able to allocate up to 2 players a year that they feel, aren't ready for their NHL team, or they don't have a place for them, and have them go play in American League. Because if Shane Wright's got 5 goals in 4 games with the Coachella. What is it? The Fire? What are they? Fire Coachella.
Yeah,
Coachella. The Firebirds. I think that's what they are. Anyways, if he's doing well down there, it'd be great. But he's playing against men down there. If he goes back to junior, he's just he's gonna regress. And he's gonna score 2 points a game. But I'd like to see some kind of thing where the NHL, they come up with it with the NHLPA, and they're able to go, okay, this is a 19-year-old kid. We can't use him here, but we'd like to maybe be able to use him during the year. We want to be able to allocate and every team up to 2 players a year that are 19-year-olds to be able to play in the American League. Now, again, I'm sure I think we had someone on talking about recently about labor laws and the rest of it. I don't know how you do that. But I think it would be so much better for the league and so much better for development for these young players, because I remember a kid that Vegas drafted a few years ago, Cody Glass, absolutely lit it up in the American League, but it wasn't in the WHL, but wasn't quite ready, maybe big enough, strong enough, whatever it was to play. And the show would have been great for them to be able to put him down where their farm team was in Chicago at the time. Vegas's farm team is now in Henderson, suburb of Vegas. And Shane Wright's the same. I'd love to see Shane Wright be able to go down there and not worry about what the next step is, because he only gets so many games or so much time period in the American League. And the next step for him is going to be able to go and play for Team Canada, which is at the World Juniors. And then what do we do with them after the World Juniors? So they have a path for this young man until the end of, till about the third or fourth or whatever the finals of the World Championship or Juniors is around the first week of January. But what's the path after that? And there's so much money invested in these kids, and there's so much invested in his own career that he's put into it. It'd be nice to be able to see him play at a level that he could develop at, and not one he's going to dominate. And I think if he goes back to junior, it's going to be a regression, unfortunately. Not that he won't come back and play well, but I'd like to see them. And you've talked about this before by moving the draft, but I don't know what the answer is. But maybe if they could find a way to allocate.
I know that there's enough big minds in the NHL and enough money that they can figure it out. And the fact that they haven't, it's disappointing. Let's go to our interview, Jeff.
Yeah, let's do it.
And our interview is brought to you by Super Deeker, superdeeker.com. Get your training system there. Learn how your stick handling is horrible and how you can make it good. Superdeeker.com. Use the code SLICES. Get yourself a little bit of a discount. Christmas is coming up. Why not get your kid one of those, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whoever's playing hockey in the family? Get them Super Deeker, proud sponsor of Around the Bag. Let's go to our interview.
Around the Bag.
This is Matt Rosen. Did I say Around the Bag again?
Yeah, you did.
Fuck. Wow, that
Orange slices. And here's Matt.
Today's guest is out of Calgary, Alberta. I met him at the Blue Ball at the Cowboys nightclub, which is famous for debauchery. But he is on the morning show on 690 The Fan, Sportsnet. There's a lot of things coming together there. He is a hockey fan, he is a football fan, and he loves comedy. Welcome, Matt Rosenberg. Hi, Matt. How are you?
Hey, happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for saying yes. We appreciate that a lot.
Hold on, I just did want to do one thing. It was Sportsnet 960.
I'm dyslexic.
That's all good, man.
As soon as he started reading it, Matt, I was like, we're done. We can't even get 30 seconds into the show.
All good. No,
it's my comic mind. I see a 9.6. I got to turn it into 6.9. I got to get it all pervy with it.
Yeah, that works. That's all we do on the morning show. So that's all good. And then just Rose works too. No one really knows me by Rosenberg.
Really?
I shortened my name. We can even get into that.
Look at Marty Rose, so Hollywood.
Exactly, right? Yeah, we can get into that decision as well. That's a fun one.
I love it. Okay, well, let's start it out. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Calgary.
No way.
Born in Drayton Valley, but grew up in Calgary. So I've been here for pretty much my entire life. I went to university here. I've done just a little bit of short traveling, but for the most part, it's been Calgary through and through.
And sports radio is what you wanted to do growing up, or?
No,
hockey?
Not really. It was kind of funny how I got into it. Like, I always loved watching Hockey Night in Canada when I was a kid, like every Saturday night. I went through university and I had like all the random things. Like, I wanted to be like a biologist for a little while and all sorts of dumb things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then had a buddy who went to broadcast school. He didn't get in. So I was like, oh, I'll see if I can get in. And then I got in, and this job just kind of over 9 years has kind of fallen into my lap.
So are you guys still buddies? I think that's the question.
He's one of my absolute best friends, actually.
Because I know if I went to broadcasting school or tried to get a broadcasting school and you got in and I didn't, nope, we're not friends anymore.
Here's the thing. He makes way more money than I do at this point in his life. He has gone on and done something a little bit different with his career path, which in the end has really worked out for him. So I don't think he's too salty about it, that's for sure. He probably would have ended
more
up
money. Good for him. Everything works.
Yeah, it's all about the money anyways. That's all it comes down to.
Well, I love that. So did you play hockey growing up or sports?
Poorly, but yeah, I did. I started playing kind of when I was like 9 or 10. It was right around then that, Jerome McGinley was a member of the Flames. A lot of my friends have been playing for a while, and I just kind of wanted to do what all my friends were doing. So I started playing. I played for 10 years, took a couple years off, never played anything high level, and now just I'm just a beer league goon.
I love it. So you still play?
Yes, yeah. Try and play as much as I can. The mornings are tough though, because you're dealing with a lot of 10:30 starts, and I try and get into the studio like 4:30 in the morning for the morning show. So that's a tight turn.
Well, thanks for staying up to do this. We really appreciate it.
Impeding my nap time.
I think it's great when a sports guy actually plays the sport, because you get I think it's a different school, right, Jeff? Am I wrong? Like, so these guys that don't even play and they're telling you about the game, you're like, oh, fuck up.
Well, I think Matt, like growing up in Calgary, obviously a lot of Canadian cities too, but Calgary specifically, great city, lots of resources in the hockey community. It's good. And so you played minor hockey. Now you play rec league or beer league or whatever we want to call it. Who do you kind of model your game after, Matt? Like who are you?
I would say Robin Regier would probably be the one guy that I would model my game. You don't expect a lot of points. You can throw a letter on him if you want. He'll throw some hits. That type of guy. That's kind of what I am in the long. I imagine Robin Regier could crush some beers in his days, and I usually pretty good at that after the game. That's really where I can excel.
Hydrate, bud.
And getting the boys going. So that's my role on the team. Bit of a grocery stick, just sitting in the middle.
Just so you can kill some penalties, lay a big hit every once in a while. Even though I'm assuming you guys aren't supposed to hit, but Robin Regier was he was like a Swiss Army knife, wasn't he? So that's basically what you are.
Oh yeah, 100%. Swiss Army, big PK guy, blocking shots in beer league. That's me, off the glass and out all day. Usually spending more time in the box than killing penalties, but like that'd probably be the biggest difference between me and Robin Regier.
I love it.
Hey, so I got a question. Since you're on Sportsnet 960 in the morning and then you play against these other guys, do you ever get into it with them on the ice? They're like kind of chirping each other, so they're like, we're not going to listen to you anymore. Like you hurt some guys' feelings, or is it pretty good?
I haven't had that yet. I did have one in. Yeah, exactly, right? Like luckily, my actual last name is not my on-air last name, so I don't think a lot of people necessarily look at the game sheet and they're like, oh, this is probably going to be that bum announcer from 960. But yeah, I'm out there. There's been one instance where other team, obviously their fault, gooning it up all game, so I had to respond. And then as we were leaving, one of his teammates was like, hey man, I recognize your voice. You from 960? And I was kind of like, oh yeah, maybe, depends. Don't tell anybody how I was behaving tonight, but yeah, sure. Thanks for listening.
So he recognized your voice. That means you're chirping a lot during the game. That's what that is.
Yeah. That's definitely one place where I can excel in beer league, is letting guys know I'm not the one that should be chirping, because a couple of points every type of season in beer league is not necessarily a stat line that you want to brag about, but yeah, a little bit of a quick tongue. That's one thing I can work in. That's for sure.
So good. So let's go back a little bit. So you end up in broadcast school. You come out of broadcast school. Do you end up in sports radio? Is that where you're headed, or are you just trying to get into radio at that point, or TV?
It's kind of wild. Like I initially wanted to do, so I went into broadcasting. The thing I wanted to do was like digital vignettes, like those video packages before a game that are like a minute and a half to like some hype song, and they get you all fired up for the puck drop. That's what I initially wanted to do, but through just happenstance, ended up doing a little bit more news. I was actually working in a bar between my first and second years of school,
Calgary.
And I was I had to work in the bar. Enjoyed that a lot. But between years, was serving a couple of dudes came in one day and was serving them whatever. And at the end of their meal, I saw they had a Rogers envelope on the table. It's the company that owns Sportsnet 960. And I just kind of mentioned that, hey, I was in broadcast school. I don't know what you guys do or what you're here for, but I don't know what I'm trying to do here. But I thought I'd shoot my shot. And it turned out to be my former program director and the current voice of the Flames, Derek Wills, signing his deal to replace Peter Marr as the Calgary Flames.
No way.
So,
wow.
Yeah, just like totally lucky. that I happened to be working that day. They happened to
No
come
way.
in. It wasn't busy, so I gave great service and was able to chat them up a little bit. And then at the end of it, they were like, yeah, come in for a tour. We're moving our studio right now, but I'll call you in a couple months and come in and just see the place. So I went in to see the place, and it ended up being an interview. I recorded like a 60-second sport update on all the sports that happened that night. Sent it to him the next day, and then a couple months later, I was employed at Sportsnet 960 as like a board op, lackey type of do everything type of guy. And 9 years later, here we are, and I'm hosting the morning show now.
You know
Hey, so
what,
Matt-
you know what, Jeff? It's the same story kind of as Al Murdoch. Remember, Al said he went and he knocked on the door, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I just wanted to just say hi and let you know this is what I'm doing. And you did the same thing. And if you don't put yourself out there, it won't happen. Like, this story's great, and it's just putting yourself out there just a little bit. You weren't overwhelming on them. You weren't like, you didn't ask for a job. You just said, I don't even know what I'm doing yet. So yeah,
Waited till
awesome.
I gave the bill to kind of make my play there, right? Had to wait the meal out. Yeah, it was lucky. And it was the type of thing where like I had to work myself up to it too. Like, because I saw the envelope and like the bill was coming. I was like, this is like your last chance. Like, you're gonna say something or you're not gonna say something. And did, and sure enough, worked out.
Hey, Matt, so one of the things we found, like talking to people that are in the business, whether, sports radio or commentator, color commentator, play-by-play, I guess, is everybody had to start somewhere. Like Randy Hahn in San Jose, we love, started off his first ever event was a dog sled race up in Whitehorse. When you got, okay, so you broke the ice with the guys, and then you went down to the station, were you just a jack of all trades? Like, what did you do at the station to kind of build up to where you are today? Like, I mean, I think a lot of people just see you or hear you on the radio or see you around town. Same with the people that are on TV, and just think that, that didn't take that long. But we're talking a 9-year experience here at this point, right? To get to where you are.
Yeah, like I think first off, I'm very lucky that fell into my lap and I didn't have to go to like some small town, which, you can learn a lot because you get a lot of experience and hands-on stuff. But at the same time, it can be hard to get out of those roles and get back to a big market. So I got very lucky that this job fell into my lap. And at the time I was running the board for Flames games. So producing the Flames games, playing all the sound elements that you might hear, recording all of the goal calls and saving them for everybody, playing those back in the post game, screening calls for our drunken call-in show after all of the games. And I did that for a while. Then one of the things that we weren't doing a ton of at the station was covering the Calgary Stampeders. And there wasn't really any roles at the Flames or anything else really that I saw going to be available in the near future. So I just went to my boss and said, hey, like, why aren't we doing the Stamps? I'll do it. Like, I've never really covered the league. I didn't grow up watching the CFL. It wasn't a thing in my family, but this is something that I can grab onto and make mine. So I did that, and now I've covered the Stamps for 5 or 6 years. I kind of made my own Stamps report out of it. And that was really one of my biggest things to kind of start getting on air, for these little Stampeders reports. And then after that, I did a little bit of Hitman work. So in the WHL, as you would know, Jeff, the Calgary Hitmen play out of the Saddle Dome here too. I host their games. So I did pre-game, intermission, post-game, got to know a lot of people in the organization because they're owned by the Flames. So that's a nice little kind of 2 and 2. So I just kind of grinded away at that type of stuff until opportunities became available to host. Actually, before that, I spent like 2 years during the pandemic working at an FM station because that was my first salary job that I got offered, and just had to take it at that point.
Mhm.
Got poached back to Sportsnet after that. So I've really done all you could possibly do in radio over those 9 years before eventually getting here, like reporting on the Flames, the Hitmen, the Roughnecks. I did the Roughnecks for a season, the Stampeders, you name it. I've just kind of done a little bit of everything here in Calgary.
I
By
got
the
a
way-
question for you on that.
Oh,
So
okay.
the CFL, for those of you, like, we got most of our family watching in Northwest British Columbia, so everybody knows CFL in Canada. But so that's a big deal up there. And the Calgary Stampeders have always been a big deal in the CFL. I'm kind of curious, like when you look at that, and you, like you said, you weren't a big football family, but you obviously gravitated that. I'm shocked that someone else, or there wasn't already something going on at the station about that. I mean, because we grew up in BC, so it's obviously the Canucks over there and the BC Lions. Like, there's always something on that. Were you surprised? Or like, why are we not doing this? And or how did that all evolve?
I'm not too sure what had happened prior. It was one of those things that, just ever since I'd been there, we hadn't really done too much with the Stampeders. We had never been the rights holders of their stuff, right? Then Sportsnet was never a rights holder of TSN on television. So I'm sure that when the higher ups were like, oh, we're not covering, oh, that's too bad. That's really a shame that we don't have enough manpower to do that. Right. I'm sure it was something like that. But when some young kid is like, hey, I'll basically do it for pennies on the dime, I just want to get in there. And they're like, yeah, of course, no problem. And like I said, the Stampeders have a good following in Calgary. It pales in comparison to the Flames, but at the same time, it's a good product. It's a good following. It's a good place to, do a lot of that early reporting, because what I love about the CFL is not necessarily how the league functions. They're constantly shooting themselves in the foot, stepping on rakes and slapping themselves in the face. But the players are great, and they have great stories to tell, and they're unique. They're all up there because they love the game. It's not like every player on that roster is going home with $1 million in their pocket, right? Like those players, there's like one or two in the league. So yeah, it's a cool place to start. I was surprised, but just kind of made it my own. It's just kind of one of the ways that, broadcasting and rights and all that type of political stuff starts getting involved.
Okay, I got one more question, because you said FM. What kind of FM? What kind of station was it? Was it easy listening? I'm guessing country in Calgary, but tell us it was like easy listening or something.
So it was Jack FM playing what we want. So we would play everything. We would go from the Beastie Boys to Glenn Healy to Genesis to Queen to like whatever. So it was pretty cool. Like, it was a lot of music that, a lot of, like, growing up, I'd be like, oh, I know this song, but I don't know who it's by or the name of the song or something like that. And it was just a gong show. Like, we just goofed around super hard. I got that job 2 months before the pandemic started. And we were like one of the only people who actually kept going into work for the entire pandemic. Like, I luckily for the entire thing basically got to leave my house, go into work, because they shut it down. They said, if you're a host, you can come in. We have like all these strict rules, all this dumb stuff. Like, they put like a shower curtain up between like the two hosts. You're like, oh yeah, this is working. Like, still in a tight room, but great. But yeah, exactly. This is real safe. Perfect. I'm glad this is here. And that was it. And yeah, it was really fun. Kind of getting to know that side of the broadcast as well. It helped me be a producer, which was my next role. I went back to the morning show on 960 and I produced it for a while. Then I was a host in the afternoons, and now I'm hosting in the mornings.
And what's the difference between the morning show and the afternoon show? Do you guys still discuss the same thing? Is there more leeway on the morning show or on the afternoon show? What's
like, I find that for our station in particular, our afternoon show is incredibly informative. It really does focus mostly on the Flames. Whereas like, the afternoon show is called Flames Talk. It's basically 2 to 3 hours of straight Flames conversation. And then our morning show, we go 3 hours, big show in the morning with Rusic and Rose, and we'll do NHL, NFL, MLB, a little bit of NBA, but it doesn't necessarily strike a humongous chord here in Calgary. Right. CFL, golf, tennis, a lot of Canadian stuff, like whenever the Canadians are playing tennis, golf, soccer, World Cup, that type of stuff. We're dialed in on that. But the morning show is more about having fun. And sometimes we'll get our facts wrong, and sometimes we'll spend a segment talking about, yeah, exactly. And hey, I just basically crack a mic and butcher the English language for 3 hours and try and get people to smile on their way to work. Like, that's my goal. Whereas the afternoon show, it's like, get the people the information that they want. Make sure everyone has everything that they need to know about the Calgary Flames, because that's where you're going to get it. It's still a fun show, by all means. But that would be kind of like the disparity. You got a little bit of that just morning goofiness that you get from going in, talking through 3 hours on 4 hours of sleep. It's
Right.
gets a little goofy.
It's
from
just
time to time.
punch drunk talk.
Yeah,
Do
you
you guys,
came by, Ian. That was
yeah.
that was a gong show of a chat.
Yeah. I took over and I told everybody, shut up, listen to me. I was a guest, but how often do you guys have comedians? How often do you have sports people on? Like, how does
We
your
love
show?
to have guests on our show. Right now, so we do a 3-hour program. We'll do 3 or 4 guests, 3 hours split into 6 segments, 3 or 4 guests on the show. We'll have comedians all the time when they're coming through, when they're promoting stuff. We love to have them on and chat because there's always a connect between sports, comedian, and the show that we're trying to do. Like I mentioned, we're trying to just have fun here, and that's a perfect place for comedians to come in and just have a good time, like you had, Ian. And then on top of that, we'll have we have Charles Davis that joins us every Monday. He's an NFL analyst on CBS. We'll have Frank Saravalli from Daily Faceoff, an NHL insider, join us. We'll just have any number of the Sportsnet personalities, or like you guys have, broadcasters, reporters for other NHL teams. So we love to have guests on and just have a good time and see what they're getting up to lately.
So Matt, you guys like to have a good time, but tonight in Calgary, I mean, I'm just kind of curious this morning because Matthew Tkachuk returns today. And I mean, talk about striking a chord in the city. I think this one, I mean, Johnny Gaudreau is going to be another big night, but he's quite the character, Matthew, right? And so I'm sure there's a lot of emotion in the city before tonight's game. Like this, was it any different this morning? But you got 3 hours to talk about it, and I mean, he's going to take up a fair amount of that time, I would think. And normally the Florida Panthers wouldn't be that big a deal, right? But they certainly are tonight.
Or the Columbus Blue Jackets, for that matter, right? Like that would be probably one of the smallest crowds all season, but that's going to be one of the more busy games this year just because it's Johnny coming back. Matthew's interesting. I think a lot of fans are endeared to him because he asked to get traded and they got some assets back. So I think it's going to be an interesting mix, but yeah, it definitely kind of takes over the emotion of the show. Like we did a full segment today on, we asked our listeners to text in your favorite radio, or not your favorite, but just a radio friendly chirp for Matthew Tkachuk. So we had like a half hour just reading chirps from our listeners that were mild mannered, but fun. Like, hey, Matthew, Brady has more Instagram followers than you, stuff like that. Your mom was born in Winnipeg. I don't know why that's really a chirp, but that was some of the stuff that we would get and kind of engage the fans and do stuff like that. So him returning, it's a big deal.
Was she really
People are
born in
excited.
Winnipeg?
I think she was born in Winnipeg. Keith met her when he was playing for the Jets. That could be completely wrong, but
Probably why I wanted to trade.
blame the guy.
Hey, so I'm curious. I was just talked to Ian a little bit. Ian and I spent the last 48 hours together down here in LA, and we're in separate rooms. But why do you think in the NHL? I was just, this kind of struck me today. I don't know why, but why do you think in the NHL, if a player asks to leave or wants to go somewhere else, he's a traitor or a villain, but if the team trades them, it's just part of the business? Like, do you know what I mean? There's two sides to that. Like, and in this case, they got a lot back for Matthew Tkachuk, and they're going to have those guys for a long time. But I'm just kind of curious what your take is on that. Why is there such a divide there? Why did those diverge so much?
Like, I would say, like, isn't it funny whenever a player requests a trade that somehow that gets out to reporters, and I wonder how it does, right? So I wonder if it's just more of just kind of like a perspective type of thing, whereas when a team decides to trade a player, like I wonder how Panthers fans looked at Bill Zito, right? Like the way that he traded away Jonathan Huberdeau, and that probably surprised a lot of people. But you get Matthew Tkachuk back, so what's the kind of response going to be like there? I really do think it comes down to an undying loyalty to the jersey that you have hanging in your locker, in your closet, right? So if your team trades away a guy, perhaps you can come up with some reason in your head why he wasn't a good fit here. Whereas if a guy asks out, it's so easy to just like hate on somebody, right? Rather than to prop them up. So I think that's probably something that comes down to it, maybe a little bit of human nature per se, the way that reports always get out about different things. I don't know. It's an interesting question that always comes up, but I know with here in Canada and here in Calgary in particular, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, Americans don't want to play here, right? Because Adam Fox was a Flames pick who refused to sign with the Flames, wanted to go play in New York and got his way. This happening with Matthew Tkachuk now, you know, Johnny Gaudreau to perhaps the same extent, like a little bit, but not necessarily in the same vein. So I think that there's a little bit of that. Like the amount of people that we would get texted in after Tkachuk and Gaudreau left that just said like, no more Americans. We're done with Americans. Like we should trade Coronado, our top prospect, now because he's going to Harvard. He'll never sign. Like I was like stunned, but that's just the way it is. Like fans have to find something to be mad at, and you have to have something to direct all of that anger to, right? And sometimes people get the tough end of the stick.
Mm-hmm. I also believe it takes a special person to play in Canada. You are in under the microscope 24 hours a day. It doesn't matter what you do. You know, you talk to these guys that live in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg. They can't do anything. There's guys at the end of their street waiting to see them. You know, there's people wanting to talk to them at the gas station. There's, you know, you got to want to live it. And not every superstar wants to live it off the ice. So you kind of got to respect that a little bit. But at the same time, how many Canadians want to live down here and play hockey? Like, you know, you go to Florida on a trip and you're like, the weather's here like this the whole time. Yeah, this is where I want to play, right?
Yeah, this isn't so bad. And the tax rate's what? 0? Oh wow, that could probably, so I get like $50,000 more a year. I could probably deal with that. Yeah, that's not the worst thing in the world. That seems like a pretty slick deal. Like I think one of the things up here is that for the most part, Toronto excluded, in all of these markets, you're the big team. Like we mentioned, like the CFL is here for sure. And the CFL is probably second fiddle to the Flames. But like I said, that gap is massive. So even in the off season, it's Flames. Whereas down in, you know, Columbus, you've got your Cleveland Guardians in the off season. You've got your Browns, you got your Bengals, you've got your Cavaliers. Like you've got everything else when the Blue Jackets aren't good. So you don't necessarily have the angry crowds. Why is this not good for us when the Blue Jackets suck? Because they're like, whatever, I'll just go watch another one of our teams that we cheer for instead. Whereas here, if the team sucks, city's like, this sucks. Like this is down. Like, you don't love to see, especially when Edmonton's good. Like that sucks.
You know, the Blue Jackets are below a college team, a college football team. You know, like that's the pecking order there. You know, so
exactly, and that's in a lot of markets too. Like even in Chicago, like the Blackhawks are a big ticket, but where do they match up to the Bears, the Bulls, any of those type of teams, right? The Sox, the Cubs, right? What's the pecking order? And if the team's bad, why are you going to spend that money on the Blackhawks when you can go watch another team?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that in Dallas, they can't even play this time of year on Friday night because of Friday night lights. Friday night high school football, the Stars will play very few games until after the high school football season's over. So yeah, there's all these competing factors. And, you know, living in Vegas, I mean, and the Knights have taken the city by storm. They're off to a great start again. There's no way, Matt, you're getting 2 or 3 hours of Golden Knights in the afternoon. One of the reasons is the city is so busy. The Raiders, they take billing, but even the Raiders in that city, I mean, you're not going to get lost and not know that the Raiders aren't playing at home on Sunday, most likely. But I can tell you that just everything else is it's so busy. There's so much else going on. Katy Perry's playing, Carrie Underwood's playing, U2's in town, whatever it is. The cool thing about being in Canada is, you know, it's a gift and a curse, right? It's a gift because you're number one. If things are going great, it's huge. If it's not going great, you just can't get out from underneath it sometimes. Like, and I'll give you an example. You know, I'm sure most people that live on the street with the Flames know one of them's on their street. A buddy of mine was just out doing a pumpkin carving with his kid the other day, and he goes, "Oh, look who my neighbor is." It was Will Carrier of the Knights. He didn't even know he was on the same street as the guy. He's like, "Oh, well, how are you doing?" Like, and so I'm not saying one's good or bad, but I can see where, I think people kind of get a little offended when a guy wants to leave and go somewhere else. But in most cases, and you correct me if I'm wrong on what you think on this, but most cases, guys, if they can get a no trade, it's a 10-team no trade. And it's not because they don't like the cities. It's strictly most of the time because of the tax, right? So you're going to get most of your Canadian teams and you're going to get 3 California teams is what I've been told. And people are shocked why Johnny went to Columbus, but over the course of his contract, he's going to end up making more. I mean, he was, I don't know. I don't want to get in too far to that, but I think
he's also
it's a business decision.
Different time of life for him as far as family. So I don't know. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Here, I've got a question for you. Do you think they'll ever change the name of the Flames to the Stampede or the Stampeders? Like, I didn't understand why they didn't go with that at the beginning, because it's such an original name and so good.
Well, like the Stampeders are the Stampeders. Because they were the Atlanta Flames, they brought the name with them. But like being an oil and gas city, like I guess there's like always the flame that's always going on the different stacks. I don't know. Like I think Flames is like pretty stuck. Like the AHL team, they just call it the Wranglers, which is pretty sweet. I like the Wranglers a lot.
Yeah. Hey, how about this one? How about the Calgary Centennials? Remember that? They're not still going, are they? In junior somewhere? I mean, I love that name. Like,
we did a Calgary Hitmen 3-game set at the Corral before they knocked it down, the old Stampede Corral. I'm looking out at the renovation right now. They're building the new BMO center right there, the new conference center. But the old Corral where the Centennials and the Wranglers and everybody used to play. We did an old series there, and the Hitmen wore all of the old uniforms of the Centennials and the Wranglers. It was pretty sweet. It was pretty cool. But no, they're not skating around. Just the Hitmen, who do have some of the best uniforms in the entire WHL. Some of the best theme uniforms too. Really cool.
I want to know if you can find any of that Centennials merch. If you see any of that, I want to get a t-shirt.
Yeah, so I would say, I'm gonna little plug here. Sea of Dead is the company in Calgary that basically takes all these old brands, like all these old teams, like the Calgary 88s were an old basketball team. The Calgary Cannons were like a West Coast baseball league that like I used to watch when I was a kid. Yeah. The
Triple A, weren't they?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure A-Rod played there for like 2 weeks at one point. But like they have this company that they just sell all old
14 women had his children.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, there's a lot of little great baseball players in Calgary as a result. But it's been pretty cool to see how they revive some of the old brands. So that you could probably find some merch out there. I would argue they got some stuff.
That would be great.
I'm curious, did you ever do you talked about what you were producing the shows. Were you ever on air for before or after the Flames games?
I have done one Flames game before. Sometimes I'll help out in intermission a little bit, but yeah, I've done the pregame and the postgame once, but our boy Pat Steinberg has been doing that for a decade now and absolutely crushes it.
Stressful, or what's it like doing one of those shows?
Yeah, like the first one I did was certainly stressful. Like anything, you kind of get a few of them under your belt and it starts to feel real comfortable. Like I kind of have a real strange mindset in the sense that like I try and think that like nobody's really listening to the radio. Like I've always had this, like, your takes aren't that good, everybody turns it off as soon as you start talking, and just keep that mentality, which kind of like takes a little bit of the edge off. I also don't take myself very seriously. So anytime we're making mistakes, rarely, we're very good broadcasters, but anytime there's a rare mistake, you laugh about it, rip yourself, you move on. It's live radio, happens all the time. So
you think,
yeah, it's stressful though.
Do you think there needs to be a player involved in the broadcast? I notice a lot of teams are not using players anymore, and I'm like wondering if I think there should be a player. It should be a broadcaster and a player.
I think that there are some guys that can do it, like here in Calgary. we don't have a former player on our broadcast. We got Peter Labardius, who's called games for decades and been a very prominent kind of guy in the WHL for a really long time, who does our color commentary. But I totally agree. Like, I love whenever we're booking guests, like, for example, we had Bill Lindsay on today because the Panthers were in town. But we love booking former guests or former players who are now in broadcast as guests on the radio for that exact reason. I think it helps the broadcast, but I think that if you can get the right guy in there,
Yes.
You can do without it. But it definitely doesn't hurt. The thing is, if you have the right guy in there, they're so tied into hockey already that they're talking to former players every day. They're talking to coaches every day, and they're just as knowledgeable. They haven't been on the ice for some of the situations, but they can still be knowledgeable to a way that helps the broadcast move along.
Right. I'm with you with that, but a former player just brings an on ice view that I don't think the listener gets. As when I sit and watch games with Jeff, I get a completely different view of the game. I'm like, this guy's got a little bit of knowledge. I wonder what he did. so it's pretty great. Like when he comes over and watches a game with me, and I get my own color commentary, and he stops it right there. Stop it. Go back.
I love that too. Like we've had all sorts of guys kind of come through the studio and watch games before. I used to do a little podcast with a guy that was a former CFL receiver. And it was always good to kind of talk about games with him because that was something that I definitely didn't feel like I had the knowledge on. So I could kind of make it up as I went, but to have him as a resource was always excellent for me. Mm-hmm. I also love just like how, and for lack of a better word, raw some of the former players are as far as their broadcast. Like listening to Espo on the Tampa Bay Lightning broadcast brings such joy to me, like the way that he just constantly talks over Dave Mishkin. It's like it's so good to listen to. It's so fun to listen. It's like it doesn't have like a modicum of like broadcast professionalism. Like if it was on CNN, they'd lose their mind. But for sports, I'm like, this is incredible. Like to just have him muttering in the background, or like Chico Resch losing his mind on some of these Devils calls with Matt Laughlin. Like I love that type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Great.
Espo's great. I happen to work with Tony's boy, Mark, and it's his uncle, which is Phil, is a real character. But I laugh because if you want to have a good chuckle, listen to the Lightning on the radio. If you got Sirius XM or whatever they are on, what's he doing? And then Dave just, like they have such a good ebb and flow. Like you'll hear him go, what are you doing? And then you'll hear him, Dave, come back in and call the play-by-play right over top. So there's a little break in there where Phil, you can tell he's just like losing it, and he gives him his space and then he jumps right back in. It's money. Every time I listen to the Lightning, I go, your uncle's at it again tonight. And the Esposito family, they're a bunch of characters, great people, but I agree. I mean, and I was going to lead into this. In Canada, Ian and I have talked about this a lot, and we talk about it with our guests that are on. Darren Millard's one of them that I think about recently, but we're so buttoned up watching the game. And Ian, you were talking about having a player on, but if you look at the TNT broadcast, which I'm sure, Matt, you've watched them, Biz is on. It's entertaining, but Biz is more like they're having a laugh, and they even got talk loosened up, and Anson Carter and Liam does a great job hosting, but that's more entertainment. Those are players on that, I mean, Biz will talk about the game a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know if you need a player. I like the idea of having a player on, but
so you think it should be the in between periods more?
Well, if you look at it, like TNT doesn't take itself very seriously. And I find like if you sit and watch a game with me, I mean, I guess I could loosen up, but I go to critique the game. It's not that I don't love watching it. I do. I watch a bunch of games.
You love to wear a tuxedo when we watch.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit more buttoned up, but I like
he's up.
Yep.
I like people that enjoy it. I don't know. What do you see the difference? Like in Canada, we're really buttoned up. Like Kelly does a great job on the Flames and he has fun with Rick, but it's not Weekend at Bernie's or anything like that. I don't know.
I think it's all about getting the right guy. And I can't remember if we interviewed Rick Tocchet on our show or if it was a podcast that he did that I that I listened to, but he talked about how like him and Wayne were really tight. So going into that TNT thing, they were like, we want to knock this out of the park. Like, we don't want to just show in, goof around, mail it in. Like, we want this to actually work. So they sat down and they worked together on it. They were all pals before. So like, I think that's what's so great about TNT's broadcast is you can tell they're pals. They'll chirp each other back and forth, like talking and biz on opposite sides. It gives you like Shaq and Charles vibes from the TNT NBA broadcast, right? Like the way they go back and forth across the desk. And I think that's one of the things that, you know, when I heard TNT was getting the broadcast, it was like, do it like your NBA show. And I feel like they've gotten about as close to that as they possibly could. But it's all about getting the right guys. Like, we all knew what Biz could do from Spit and Chicklets and just the cult following that he created after being just like a fourth line goon who would fight everybody, but endeared himself to crowds, right? And an incredibly smart hockey mind, but just maybe never had the same skill set that a lot of other guys did. So you knew he was the real deal. Rick Tocchet, you don't have to go down the Flyers legend, former head coach, Wayne Gretzky. Like, the key was getting the right guys in there. And Kelly Hrudey's another example, just a beauty of a human. Him and Rick Ball are such good friends. Like, you can listen to broadcasts and you can tell when there's two guys that don't get along. And I think that's one of the biggest keys, is that if you're going to have a fun broadcast, you got to have guys that can have fun at their expense and the other people's expense on the broadcast too. And that makes it fun. And that's what it's all about. Like, so many times I think we have to remind ourselves that we're talking about a game here. And if you're not enjoying yourself, then really, like, if sports is just bringing you sadness and just bringing you down all the time, then maybe it's not for you.
It's true. It's absolutely true about what you said about your morning show. It's an escape. It's 3 hours for people to escape. And the game is 3 hours for people to escape as well. It shouldn't be 3 hours, but it should be, you know, closer to 2. But
Matt,
it's an escape for you to jump away from your everyday life. This podcast, the same thing, you know. Yeah, it's entertainment. I once read a thing that sports shouldn't be a sports section. It should be an entertainment on the entertainment section. And I really still believe that.
I always say it's the best reality TV on TV.
Yeah.
Because it's less scripted than real reality TV.
Right. And the chicks are just as good in the stands.
Right? Nice.
We got a couple more questions and we'll let you go, because I know you've been up since 4 a.m. wandering around talking to people. What's behind you? What's that? What's your background?
I got booted out of the apartment, so I'm just in the entertainment lounge. So this is just some tasteful art set up in the apartment complex that I'm in.
Nice.
A couple TVs in here, you know, extremely loud coffee machine that I'm sure you can hear in the background. This white is creating a terrible glare off my forehead. I look like a ghost, so that's been great. But just a tasteful art.
I thought it was a window, to be honest with you.
So did I. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Oh, I got the window over here, but you want to see the saddle now? Let's see if we can see it.
Right there. Calgary boy.
Oh, nice day up there.
Yeah, nice. It's actually very cold. It's like minus 21. But yeah, there she is.
Looks like Serbia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's basically, we love it here. It's home. It's no Vegas, but it's got a little character. No Vegas Strip.
We were all bundled up yesterday.
Gotta check my blood pressure after that.
Street used to be called Stab Avenue, so it's not the Strip, but it's close.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, it's funny because yesterday Ian and I walked the dogs. I was down spending some quality time with them, and we were bundled up. We had like 3 layers on it. It was like 15 Celsius or 16 Celsius, 60 or 62 degrees. So, but I'm getting ready to brave the Great White North again next week. So I'm looking forward to get all my warm clothes packed, ready to go. So
I'm ready for it to be over already. Honestly, I'm just like done. I hate when the air hurts my face to be outside for like 30 seconds. It's really wouldn't recommend.
So what's your plans? Like, you're quite young and you're on the morning show. That's probably one of the top morning shows in Calgary. Where do you see, or what do you see a next step, or where would you like to do?
I'll probably just keep winging it. It's turned out pretty good up until this point, so
Love it.
I assume that's gonna be how it continues. I don't know, like world domination. I have no idea. Like, I'm
Domination.
so flabbergasted that I'm even in this position now, and that people haven't like ran me out of town with pitchforks and torches. So I'm just enjoying the ride, and
That would be Serbia.
I've never, yeah, exactly, pretty close. Never known a 5-year plan that I could get past the first year in. So that's probably the plan.
Have you ever seen Pineapple Express?
Are you about to tell me that I'm Seth Rogen? Because I get that a lot.
You look so much like Seth Rogen. It's crazy. It's
Listen, me and Seth's character from Pineapple Express have a few common things that we like to enjoy. And I get that a lot. It's the laugh. Like when I was surfing, I would constantly get like, "Oh man, you sound like Seth Rogen. You look like him too." You ever hear? So it's like the highest honor I could get. Like of all the people to be compared to as celebrities, it's pretty up there because I loved his movies growing up.
When you guys do a thing where you do something with the fans, like, you know, when you do a game package where you will come with us and we'll go to the game or whatever, you should call your next thing the Pineapple Express or something like that.
I like that.
Actually, you guys take them to someplace southern and it's the Pineapple Express. You know what I mean?
Like a client trip, find our way down to like
yeah. And then
I don't know, where's weed legal in the States? It's very spotty rules. Up here, it's just a free for all. You just any corner store. It's great.
Yeah, we'll tell you where to go, but you know, like we're just, and then you could just have the laugh over top while you guys are advertising.
Yeah.
Free tickets are gonna. I love it.
Yeah, that's great, I get that a lot. A big idol for sure. Big fan.
That's awesome.
Like if I could ever do what he did in Vancouver, where he got to voice like the transit guys for like the train platforms, like that's probably my next step. If we're talking about what I want to do in life, that's probably it.
I want to tell you there's a step backwards for you.
Oh, really?
telling people to get on a train is a step backwards.
Step back from the yellow line, please. I think I could do it.
I love it. I love it. Hey, last question for me, and we've kind of been all over the place, but
I've loved this.
The Flames, they talk about them enough in Calgary. We're only going to spend a bit of time on them today, but what is going on? What do you see? This team
there?
Yeah, no, I just kind of, I had them kind of with the trade. I mean, I thought Gaudreau and Tkachuk are all world players, but they replaced them with some pretty darn good players, and they had a nice core there already. What's going on with the Flames? I think everyone kind of thought they were going to run away with it in the Pacific. What do you see, and where are they going to go? Like, do you think they kind of scuffle for most of the year and get in, or do you think they find their gear here and get going and catch up to Vegas and Seattle?
I think there's certainly a possibility they can certainly figure things out. You've got too many players that are just not even playing subpar, like playing very bad compared to where they have been prior. And obviously it takes time to get different guys into the kind of system here, but this is a team that last year had 71 man games lost to injury, and 18 of those were Tyler Pitlick, who played 3 games and then got dealt to the Canadiens while he was hurt. Now they're dealing with, Oliver Shillington hasn't been here, so that's kind of messed with the blue line. Mackenzie Weegar maybe didn't settle in as fast as they expected. Michael Stone got hurt, so they actually played with an AHL pair of defensemen for a couple of games, so that didn't help the team. Now their defense is getting healthy. They're kind of starting to get in a little bit of a groove there. None of their offensive lines have been able to click. Like the last year, it was Johnny, Lindy, Matthew Tkachuk every game for almost 82 straight. They all scored 40 goals. This year, they haven't really had one line that's been able to stay together for more than 3 or 4 games at a time. And when one line was going, none of the other ones were. And this is a team that's going to need to kind of score by committee. But for me, there's 2 big problems lately. Bad penalties at bad times of the game. They got a good PK unit, but you just can't put them as shorthanded as you have. And when they're turning the puck over, it's winding up in their back of the net in a hurry. There was a stat on the last Sportsnet broadcast that the Flames are second to last in the NHL as far as giving up goals in a short time after turning the puck over. It was like within 15 seconds of a turnover, they've allowed the second most goals in the NHL to only the Ottawa Senators. And anytime that you're in a stat with the Senators, the Blue Jackets, the Ducks, that means that you're down bad. And I think that's been a big part. Like when this team's turning the puck over, it's costing them a lot. They just seem to lose guys in transition. The goaltending hasn't been as good. Dan Vladar is going to get the start for the second straight game here today, but Jacob Markstrom kind of struggling out of the gate. There's been a lot to look at and say, ooh, but at the same time, there's a lot of good players here that aren't playing up to their potential. The question is, what's it going to be to finally get everything together? Like the fans want a call up, like a kid to come up, bring us some good energy in, but they have yet to receive what they want. So we'll continue to see as they're just going to have to chop away.
Interesting.
Right on.
I like it. You guys, when you get the calls from the fans, it must be interesting.
Yeah. Oh man.
They must think they're all general managers, right?
Well, they all know the solution. It's either the 5'7" forward in the AHL who's leading the league in points but has never played an NHL game. He's obviously the solution. Or you could just trade for like a Timo Meier. Like, why don't you just trade like a second round pick and Kevin Rooney for Timo Meier out of San Jose? It's like, well, I don't know why they don't do that. That's a great point. But yeah, it's just that kind of stuff, right? And they're passionate. Like you can't hate them for that. They're passionate, but sometimes it gets to be a bit much.
Fans are funny. I was surprised. Remember during the bubble, I was surprised anybody scored because nobody told the players when to shoot.
It's a good point. Yeah, we actually had that conversation on the show today because my co-host came back. He went and watched the game in Buffalo, and he was like, "What is worse? Is it the guy who is constantly yelling at the players to shoot, to pass, to do all that, or is it the guy who kind of sits beside you and like critiques them quietly but loud enough that you can hear, but like he's better than them? Like he doesn't yell at them, but he kind of just says it to his friend. He's like, this guy's such a plug, like Jonathan Huberdeau. I could do that. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, beat it, kick rep. Or the guy who starts the wave when your team is losing. The wave is only applicable when your team is in a landslide victory and you need to kind of get some people out of their seats.
Yeah,
that's a hard rule for me.
I'd like being the guys that complain about the players are the funnest to be around because you try to get a look at them. You're just like trying to look at them, especially when they're behind you and you're like trying not to be obvious. Like
so he's got burgers in both hands. He's like, "We're this plug." Daryl Sutter doesn't know shit. And you're like, what are you talking about? Go back to Denny's, bro. Come on.
I love it. Oh, well, we appreciate you, my friend. If you're in Calgary, make sure you listen to 960, not 690. 690 is an all Christian station. You don't want to listen to them. Sportsnet, The Fan, the morning show. Listen to them. Good time. Let you escape, learn some things, but have a good laugh as well. So we appreciate you.
That's all we're there for. Thanks for having me, Ian and Jeff. It's a lot of fun. I like what you guys are doing here.
Thanks, Matty.
You bet. Take care, fellas.
Have a good day. That was a great interview. Matt up in Calgary. Make sure you listen to him in the morning if you're awake at that time. I'm kind of jealous that he didn't have to leave his hometown, and that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah, what a great story. But you know what? Again, there's another guy that's just went out and got it done. He just went for it. You can tell, obviously, he's got the gift of the gab. He's on the radio, but way he went and introduced himself to the guys from Sportsnet originally, wasn't in their face, did his job. And hey, by the way, at the end,
good.
What do you guys think? And they're like, oh, how about you do this? To me, I mean, we talk about hockey, we talk about a bunch of things, but I was really impressed that he was like, hey, I'm going to do something with the Stampeders. Like, I really like that. I that showed me how he got the job. I think in the first place, this guy was out go-getting, he's looking, the radar scanning everything. And he, what's in front of me,
true. He just didn't just sit back and let things happen. He made them happen by putting the work in. I think we should call this this podcast "How'd You Do It." That's what we should
Yeah.
start.
Hey, do you remember we were going to start, was it years ago? Hook it and cook it.
Cook it and cook it. Oh, I still want it.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? We'd have flats on too, but I don't know. Between the three of us, I'm not sure we could get a fish in the boat. So
I'd be falling in all the time. You guys be pulling me back in the into the boat.
hey, did you
Anyway.
see, talking about that? I want to go off. Did you see about the guy that was proposing to his wife on the water? I think it was in Florida, or his girlfriend. And he went to pull the ring, but it was in a box out of his pocket, and it dropped out of his pocket off the boat into the water, and he dove in and got it.
No way.
Yeah, he went in and got it, got back on the boat, finished, and she said yes, and here we go. But yeah,
Here we
so
go. And she
hook
knows
it
how
and
to kill
cook
him, and she knows how to kill him if she ever wants to get rid of him. Drop something into water, make sure that he doesn't come back up.
yeah, he's going to get it. So, but yeah, great, Matt, great job up there in Calgary on 960 Sportsnet.
Not 690 like this dummy, and it's brought to you by Slices, not enjoying around the bag.
Hey, I want to do, I know we've been going for a while, but I wanted to bring up a couple things. First of all, Hockey Fights Cancer Month was November. And of course, we're right at the end of November here. Want to reach out and do a shout out to all our friends and family and people that have fought that disease and have come out on top of it and just kind of acknowledge their fight and our friends and families. And we love all you guys. And keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiration to all of us. And some of our friends and family that have fought and battled, it's really like I get up in the morning, I'm like, it's inspirational and motivational. So we love all you guys. And we also want to talk about Win-Win Entertainment. Lord Bag, and you might want to talk about that a little bit, but Win-Win Entertainment and the time we were on and what Win-Win Entertainment does. They're having a big deal this Friday. They're what is it, telethon, December 2nd.
Yeah, Win-Win Entertainment is a part of a hospital network. It's video, it's a radio, TV interview kind of thing, and it's in kids' hospitals, and it brings an escape for the kids. And me and Jeff have both done it. I talked about the hockey movie that I was in, and Jeff talked about playing in the NHL, and Corey Hirsch actually did it as well. He talked about going to the Olympics. So it's to give the kids inspiration on what they want to do after they get out of the hospital and get going and going back on their trip in life, and just giving them a little bit of time out from their fight. So Win-Win is in, I think it's all over America for sure. I don't know if it's in Canada as well, but it's very important, and we were thrilled that they even asked us. So Win-Win Entertainment, and who's the guy that started it?
Jeff Savilico, who's an entertainer. He had his own show on the Strip forever. He juggles and he's unbelievable, but he was a driving force behind it. And Win-Win, Win-Win Entertainment. Look it up. And their telethons this weekend.
We'll put it right here. It's right here. You
Yeah.
can see it right there. So we'll
yeah. This they're doing 10 hours to celebrate the 10th anniversary, and Ian and I and Snacks, Corey, we've all been a part of it. And it's unreal. It goes into the hospitals, so the kids they can't get out they're in getting treatment and getting taken care of. And it was really tough during the pandemic because nobody could really come in and see them. So we were fortunate enough to be able to do that and spend some time and Ian telling his jokes, making them laugh. And I had hockey gear I put on and showed them the hockey gear. And it's a great cause, and there's a bunch of great people involved in the artists. There's artists involved. Everything's volunteer around Vegas. So you'll get the artists, you get magicians, you get comedians like Ian, and you get sports people like I used to be. So anyway, support it. Look it up. Win-Win Entertainment. We'll put something on the screen for you. It's a great deal. And what a great cause to be a part of.
Yes. Another great show brought to you by Heady Gear, Brett Hedikin's company. Heady Gear is backpacks that you can take and turn into your own style. Go to headygear.com, check it out. Tell them Bag sent you. and who knows, he'll give you 1,000% discount. Yeah. So check out headygear.com, and he was a great guest, and we appreciate you. I think that's all today, right?
Yeah. Well, do you want to tell a quick story about spending the weekend or part of the weekend together? Do you want me to?
Jeff came down and stayed at my house, and yesterday morning before I got up, because he wakes up before before the sun rises, basically, he decided to take the dogs out. And yesterday I was walking back after taking the garbage out, and the neighbor says to me, "Hey, I seen Jeff trying to walk all 3 dogs at the same time yesterday morning, and what a mess it was." So tell him what happened.
Yeah. So normally, because Lord Bag is a night owl and I'm not, I'll get up in the morning. Cab goes to work, does her thing. So I usually walk Pearl and Lou, and I'll take them. So I was going to leave. Henry was going to be a healthy scratch yesterday, but he comes out of nowhere, wagging his tail. He wants to go too. I'm like, oh, how bad can this be? We walk down the bottom of the stairs. The first thing we see is this dog on no leash. Pearl and Lou lose their mind. Meanwhile, Henry's getting dragged along. I was like a pretzel. All I was trying to do is get like 15, 20 feet so I could get to the beach so they could go pee and take them back upstairs. Then there's people like descending on me from both ways. And this one lady looks at me. She goes, "Are you all right?" So anyways, I look down. I'm trying to get the dogs to go to the bathroom. And I'm trying to get them back upstairs. Meanwhile, Lord Bag's supposed to be on a podcast at 9. So I come back in like I'm his dad. It's 5 to 9. I'm like, "Hey, did you know?"
It all makes sense now because you're so flustered. You're like, "What are you doing still in bed? You're supposed to be on a podcast."
Yeah. I felt like I had to go in and like I was his dad, and he was like a teenager. "You got to be on at 9." So he's like,
my favorite part of the whole
9:30.
story is you saying that you'd put Henry over the other side of the beach, and then Lou jumped over and started peeing on his head.
Yeah, and so Pearl, she's pretty, she's pretty mobile, right? She knows when Lou's got a bladder like an elephant. So I put Lou over, and I put Henry over, and I go to do something with Pearl, and I look, and there's Henry just right in the line of fire. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I was pulling Henry out of the way, and Lou goes to the bathroom. He takes his leak for about 15 minutes when you let him out there. So I was like,
God.
oh yeah, it was something, and all wrapped up, and
no good deed goes unpunished.
No, and I'll tell you what. So Henry, no matter how happy he is to see me or how bad he wants to go in the morning again next time, it's not going to happen. I got to leave him behind because the other two I can handle. Henry totally threw me off. So
it's a juggling act. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it is. Anybody that has 3 dogs will know. And who knew that I would have 3 dogs? Shout out to Henry, Pearl, and Lou. Loved all.
Loved all.